Welcome back to the Weekly Manga Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all your favorite ongoing manga, and welcome to the third annual Manga Awards, brought to you by me, Bruce, the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel, and my constant co-host, Gautam.
Hello.
2024 has been awesome as far as manga, especially new manga, I'd say, so we are honored and excited to bring you our favorites in some specific awards this year. The way this is going to work is through direct debate. For each category, Gautam and I will both bring a nominee, and then we will discuss and debate which one we think should move on and win. We will each be bringing one nominee for each of the following categories. We have the best new manga in the year 2024, best flashback, the worst thing we tried to read this year, best art/artist, best writing, best seinen, a hidden gem award, best romance, best comedy, best completed story arc, best shonen, best single chapter/moment, best character, and then, of course, at the end, the best manga of 2024. So, hope you're all ready, and I hope that after you hear our list, you'll maybe get in the comments and provide us with some of your lists. I'm not going to plug anything yet until the very, very end, so stick with us. Let's hop right in, Gautam, with our first category. This is an exciting one. I think this is actually one that was one of the harder ones for me to nominate anything for. This is the best new manga of 2024. My nominees should be on the left for all of these, and Gautam's on the right, lining up with the screen. My nominee for this is Centuria, and Gautam, you have nominated Drunk Bullet. Why don't you hop in first here and sell me on Drunk Bullet, which I already know is good.
Yeah, sure. Drunk Bullet is a story about a soldier who, after the war, is desperate to have some alcohol again, but it is the Prohibition era, and alcohol has been banned. So it's a journey about how him and his goofy crew go around trying out alcohol all over the United States. And it's like I don't know. It's kind of this perfect mix of like historical fiction, goofy vibes, but also tells like a serious story when it needs to. Mm-hmm. I think that like the end of every story arc has a satisfying, like every single one of them has its like unique theme and resolution and moral. But it's like ultimately it's about just trying different alcohols and getting drunk and having fun. It's just a good time all around. Yeah. I think it just kind of has everything going for it.
I think this is I think this is a really good series. I think it's interesting, like you mentioned, that it's sort of historical setting and environment is all kind of like really, really accurate to the time, right? To sort of mid-late 1920s America. And something we mentioned in our initial review of the first chapter of this when it came out a couple months ago was like, you don't see a whole lot of manga set in America. Like there's a couple, but you also don't see a whole lot of manga set in 1920s America that are also extremely historically accurate, even though, like you said, the story inside it is not entirely accurate. There's a little bit of fantastical action and drinking, and the characters are all kind of larger than life. But like, I think it's one of the things I think is really cool about this is just how like accurate a environment and historical time period that they've recreated. And like, there are times where it's brought up an alcohol or how it was made or a person, and I'll go and Google it and I'll be like, wow, okay, yeah, in 1928 Chicago, that character was there and they were doing this kind of mob stuff and they could have encountered them. I think it's just really cool that kind of attention to detail set against what is like a fun-loving cast, a fun, interesting way to look at everything. So yeah, I really like the series.
You remember in Oppenheimer when Einstein shows up like an Avengers cameo? It's like that, except it's good. I think that scene didn't work in Oppenheimer because it's such a serious story, so it felt out of place. But Drunk Bullet is inherently a little bit goofy and fun. So these cameos of historical figures are all like a good time to see on screen.
Yeah, I'll Google these people who show up and I'm like, wow, that was a bad guy. He got, manhandled by the FBI 20 years later. And it's like, but in this thing, he's a fun-loving dude and he's just another gangster guy.
But then he turns out to be a scumbag, but like a lovable scumbag. But it's like, you go to the Wikipedia, it's like, oh, he was a monster.
You're like, oh no, wait, tax evasion. Yeah, so cool. So Drunk Bullet's really good. I agree. I have brought Centuria here. This is a sort of eldritch horror action fantasy series about a boy who is saved by the sacrifice of 100 people on a ship from an eldritch god who sort of grants him the power and the souls of those 100 people to continue fighting. And he ends up protecting sort of the newborn daughter of a motherly figure that he met on that boat. This is all kind of first chapter stuff. And I think that it's a really cool first chapter. I think where it goes from there is really cool with like more eldritch gods, and there's this kind of kingdom succession plan and some prophecy stuff going on. It kind of is a lot of kind of classic high fantasy, but it's really well steeped in this eldritch horror type mythos. And I just think it's, I mean, like, just if this was published directly in Weekly Shonen Jump, this would be, I think, a huge hit. Like, I think it's a pretty big hit on Jump Plus. These are both Jump Plus series, by the way. And I mean, it has a little artistic issues occasionally, but I just like, it's just such a fun, like, cool, interesting read. And something we've talked about before is you don't get a whole lot of just straight up high fantasy series in many in Weekly Shonen Jump or anything. So
it's hard to do. Like, I think high fantasy and world building go hand in hand, and world building is hard.
Yeah, sorry, my dog was making noises back there, choking on something.
Yeah, all
He's
good.
Fine. But yeah, I mean, I think Centuria is great. Have you kept up with this one fully, Gautam?
No, I fell off it, okay. But it's kept up its pace.
I think it's gotten better in a lot of ways. Like, I think it had a super excellent first chapter, not like the best of all time, but I really liked the first chapter. And I think in a lot of ways it's gotten a lot better. It's kind of the things that are going on in the story, I think, are more interesting than immediately kind of after the first chapter. At the first chapter, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you know, he met some people, he met some nice people and blah, blah, blah. But I think, I think it's really picking up speed and staying really consistent. This is, let's for a brief moment before we continue with these two, this is one of the hardest categories for me to think of what I wanted to nominate here, because I think that there were easily maybe 6 or 7 brand new manga this year that I think I could have nominated and could have won this award.
Like what?
I think Galaxius is one that we both talked about a lot that we'll mention a little bit later. I think Shiba Inu Rooms is awesome. I think I nominated that for something a little later on. I think Kaijin Fugeki is great. Centuria is good. I think Ichi the Witch is really good, even though I don't think that got mentioned anywhere. This just was like, it was a weird year in 2024 because I thought there were a lot of good new starting manga that I think are going to last a long time and have a big impact. And then all of the endings we got sucked.
Yeah,
it's like everything that ended we didn't really enjoy, but there's a lot of good new stuff replacing it. So I'm kind of excited for that. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of good new series, and this is a small fraction of them.
Yeah, I think personally of what you mentioned, I think I'd only put Galaxius up versus these two. I think it should honestly be a 3-way battle because Galaxius is so good.
It could be. I really like Galaxius. I think the only reason it's not up here is it's had some publication issues, a little inconsistent, and I haven't kept up with it because of that. It's hard. It missed like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something. Like,
yeah,
its first chapter was published, I think, around the same time as Drunk Bullet, like maybe a week before, a week after. And I think it's 10 or 12 chapters behind.
Hey, listen, man. If your series is about humanoid dragons, you go on hiatus. That's just how it works.
Is that a Hunter x Hunter thing that I don't get?
No, it's a Ruri Dragon thing.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I will cede this one to you because I think Drunk Bullet is great, and I think Centuria is also good. I think a lot of people watching this will probably be more familiar with Centuria over Drunk Bullet. I think those people should go and check out Drunk Bullet because I think Drunk Bullet is exceptional. It's so good, and it's really, really different, but also the same. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's different than anything you've ever seen, but it's also like so familiar of like a fun-loving group of people going on a road trip, going pursuing their goals. And I think it's just really, really good.
You know, and I don't keep up with manga discourse that much anymore, but I just want to make the blanket statement. not enough people are reading it. Go read Drunk Bullet.
For sure. I do not see nearly enough people talking about it because, I do think that this is one of, and by our choice here, the best new manga this year. Cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Let's go to the next one. This is, I somehow I accidentally put the two hardest ones first. The two hardest ones for me to pick.
This is so fucked.
This one is, I agree with you. It's been 10 minutes. Yeah, this category is fucked this year because there's so many good flashbacks. Best flashback, I have nominated the Zuma flashback from Dan to Dan, and Gautam is nominated One Piece, the Kuma / Bonnie flashback, mostly Kuma's backstory here.
Speak on yours first this time.
Well, and let's go over what's left off this list that I think also was good.
Sure.
For me, there was also in Kindergarten Wars, there was a flashback for a character named Luke, which was absolutely heartbreaking and amazingly well told. There was a flashback in Ranger Reject that gave us a lot of origins of a certain bad guy character. I think that was this year. That was very early this year, if I remember right.
That was this year for sure.
That was also an exceptional flashback.
That was very good. And then there's Spy Families, but we'll talk about that one later.
The Spy Family flashback. And that one. Yeah, we'll get to that one. I'll go first here. Dandadan, if Dandadan goes down as anything, I think it will go down as the series where if a flashback starts, you are about to see the best part of the manga, which is kind of wild to say. Because I don't know if there's any manga where it's like, oh yeah, the best part of the series is the flashbacks. But like every single flashback in Dandadan is the most heart-wrenching, like gut-pulling, tears in your eyes, hell yeah, go get him, champ, at the end type of flashback. Like thinking about the Battle Grandmas, which was last year, thinking about, the original, the one that people, if you've seen the anime that you'll be familiar with, is the Acro Silky flashback, which is the very first one in the series. And that one is, I think, just a single chapter. And a lot of these flashbacks here are a couple chapters. I think Zuma's is maybe like 4 or 5 chapters. And it's just like I don't want to spoil too much because it's just an award show, but the things that happen in Zuma's flashback and despite it being 4 or 5 chapters are so.
You know what? Let's spoil shit. I think we can't really speak about why. Sure.
Okay. Spoiler warning for these two. I will try to timestamp this one when it goes up so you can skip the next one if you're worried about it. Zuma being a child whose father kills himself from overwork in Japan. Like the start of it, you're already like, oh shit. And then his mother who like takes like, and then his little brother, he like has an umbrella that he loves, who then like gets beat up, loses his umbrella, chases it down and drowns. Like, okay, double whammy. His mother then like takes him to have a super fun day at the park. And you're thinking like, oh, okay, this is very sweet. And then his mother throws herself in front of a train in Japan, which is like I won't say like a common way to commit suicide in Japan, but like a thing that is like well known that they try to protect against. Like these trains are a huge part of Japan, and he like manages to like escape her grasp. Like the 1, 2, 3 gut punch, like those 3 things I just said, those are the first chapter of this flashback. And after that, him being like adopted by the policeman who tries to get him to kind of, and like him being a thug after that and trying to, deal with his trauma in a way. And then finally kind of like getting the umbrella demon whose name I don't remember to like help defend like a person who was in the exact same situation his little brother was in. And the cop saving him or him saving the cop. And it's just like, man, it's just beautiful. Like it's so sad. It's so effective. It's so beautiful. It's just like, and you know what? I'll tell you right now, next year, the best flashback, it will probably be Dandadan again for me. Like if they do any kind of flashback next year, I can't imagine like anything else will be better. Like it's just, I don't know. It's just so effective and it's so hyper focused and like, it just every moment and chapter is meaningful and awesome. And Zuma's a character who I didn't even really like this whole arc when it started. And then the Zuma flashback happened and I was like, okay, well, this is maybe like one of the best things I've ever read like this year. So
yeah, I mean, and I still think like the arc is maybe a little bit weaker than the rest, but it's a damn good time because Dandadan is never bad. It just isn't. It's a great arc, despite it being maybe the weaker Dandadan arc. But this flashback, like parallel it with the Turbo Granny flashback, or not the Turbo, the Master Chief Grannies. It that is like a full on fantasy flashback, but you're able to empathize with like the character plights, just being a human.
Like immediately too. Like again, in the first chapter of this flashback, like just does you're just like you feel so much emotion for the characters in it.
Yeah, and to finish what I was saying is like this flashback in parallel is like completely different. It's grounded. It's like real. This is what this happens in the real world.
Yeah,
people die, people break, they hit their threshold mentally, and I don't know. This was just a very real flashback for this supernatural fantasy series.
Yeah. Well, and people who lose their parents to, suicide or abuse or whatever and put into foster care, these people don't, I'm not going to say these people don't have good lives. These people have a higher chance of having not great lives and being run in with, with gangs and thugs like Zuma was and all this stuff. And you're right. It's very true to life, but comparing it even just to the Battle Grannies, something that Dan Dan just does so well is that at the end of the day, it's this hyper character focused series. And that's why the flashbacks are good, because flashbacks are almost always there to sort of expand and expound and describe why a character is the way they are, how they got there, bringing you up to speed on who a character is. And the fact that Dan Dan is such a character focused series, I think its flashbacks just serve an even greater purpose there.
I also appreciate like I completely agree. And I appreciate that most, if not all, of the flashbacks have this like found family vibe, in that it shows that like it's never black and white who's evil and who's not. It's everyone lives in moral grace, and ultimately it's like that the cop adopting Zuma and the granny being there for Godzilla girl, I'm forgetting her name.
I'm also forgetting her name for some reason, but
yeah. But either way, it's like those aren't their parents. But it's just like being there for one another. I think Dan Dan, like the author, understands what like makes or breaks people, like motivation wise, like what makes you who you are today.
And it's also really
explores it in like a very nuanced way, like both the goods and the bads, like traumatic experiences followed by like unconditional support from someone who you don't expect, right? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all very cool.
And it's all about how people are broken down and built back up. I mean, that's a very like a consistent theme. And yeah, you're right. The found family is a very consistent theme. There's also a lot of parent-child relationship stuff, and basically every flashback, I would say, or maybe just family-related stuff, because like Gigi's demon is a very sort of like brotherly love type thing that kind of saves him, and then the Acro Silky is a mother-daughter thing. This is a mother-son and two brothers thing. So it's all very kind of family focused, which is very cool.
For
but
sure.
Yeah, so let's we've talked that one to death. It's a very good flashback.
It's so good. This one is probably going to be our longer.
It is challenged. Yeah, it is challenged on your side by the Kumabani flashback, which was much longer, much more detailed, and yeah, this one gushed to me about it.
Yeah. So I love this flashback. It's insanely good. It's not as concise as the Zuma flashback, but it can't be. It reveals way too much about the world and character dynamics. You learn about this more or less mysterious character whose intentions are unknown, Kuma. Just like a big force in the series, but you really didn't know all that much about him. You understand that he is Bonnie's dad and get a grasp on their relationship. It is fucking brutal. It's a brutal flashback as well. Kuma's life was not even remotely easy. I won't go through the whole flashback because we don't have that time here, but ultimately I thought it was like incredibly touching and sweet, and Kuma is just like maybe the most good character in the series so far. Like,
yeah, one of. I mean, for sure.
Next to Luffy, who is just like a manifestation, literally, of good, right? But Kuma's up there, just a swell dude, and
yeah,
I think it really helped characterize not just Kuma, but Vegapunk, Bonnie, and Kizaru as well. Like, and that
and
was big for the arc.
and it's
And Sentomaru, yeah.
tell me if you agree with this, what I'm about to say. I think this is the best flashback One Piece has ever had.
Let me think on that.
The only other one that I think might come close is the Sabo Luffy Ace one.
Okay, that was my favorite, actually.
Yeah, I think that's most people's favorites, but I think this is better than that one. Like,
this was so damn good that I won't, like, I can see why you would pick this as your favorite. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's and you're right that it's much longer, but it needs to be longer, and it tells a little bit more of a. It's almost a complete story in itself, right? I mean, it's, I don't know, 10, maybe not even 10 chapters, maybe like 7 or 8 chapters, and it's kind of the whole history of it's all of Kuma's backstory, right? Is that it's Kuma being on what was that island? The island that gets attacked, to where they steal one of the fruits.
Oh yeah, the island where they hunt men, where the 1% hunt men.
Yeah, it shows about him being kind of, the last of this buccaneer race, and how he meets the, Bonnie's mom, whose name I've forgotten. And Bonnie's mom gets captured and then impregnated. Like he's not actually Bonnie's dad. Yeah, I mean, it's just
he's just the dad who was there. That was great.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, and I think it's made even better by the by some of the actions that come after it in the story that aren't actually in the flashback of the Kuma bot returning. Yeah, this is
and he intentionally lobotomizes himself so Bonnie can live like a happy life. It is
and goes to work for the people he has been fighting against for his whole life.
He's just the goodest dude in the series.
Dragon is in this flashback. Still doesn't do anything, but he's there.
Speaking of good dads.
yeah. Speaking of good dads, the worst. He's not even necessarily the worst. He's just
we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah. Cool. Let's not spend any more time. How are you feeling?
Hold on. One last thought.
Okay. Yeah.
I will say, if you thought Egghead was a great arc, you would be right. But this flashback is why Egghead was a great arc. It established the stakes of the arc. Why Kuma's important. Why Bonnie's fight matters. Why Kizaru is conflicted. And it characterized everyone in the arc, So it's the reason you liked Egghead is because you read this flashback.
For sure. My opinions on Egghead before this flashback were that it was okay, and my opinions on Egghead after this flashback, you will see later in the best story arc. I think I nominated Egghead for that. So
One Piece just hit this year, dude.
It was so good this year.
Yeah.
Are you leaning one way or another on this very hard, Gautam?
It's fucked up that I have to make this choice, but I would say One Piece, only because of how established these characters were. Everything, the world building, everything set up before this arc led to this flashback, and it was a culmination of a lot of stuff. So I'd say One Piece. I can't
argue against. Like I said, I believe that the best story arc, I have nominated Egghead for that. So I can't argue with the fact that this is good. So I will cede it again. One Piece Kuma is the best flashback of the year.
I wanted to talk about Dan to Dan more off the start because I knew I felt like we were going to choose One Piece here.
Yeah.
It's just important to talk about how good that flashback was. Since
and it is exceptionally good.
Yeah.
Cool. 2 great things. This conversation might be a little bit shorter. What was the worst thing we read this year? I'm pretty sure both of us said the ending to Oshinoko, as far as things that we kind of were invested and interested in. And we released an entire episode about that on the channel that you can go check out, so we don't have to rehash that. It was a pretty bad ending, wasn't it? In a like I said, a year of many bad endings.
Yeah, we can keep this one short. It was fucked up how bad it was. I don't know what happened.
It sucks because it's a pretty miserable ending to what I think that outside of the last maybe 7 chapters was an exceptionally good series.
You
and now if someone asked me, should I read Oshinoko? I would say absolutely not. Do not waste your time. Do not waste your time with Oshinoko.
Dude, you remember that gal cleaning manga where the author snapped and made it some weird thing?
It's
like that happened. here.
Okay, but I liked that because I thought that was wild, crazy, off the wall, and like, oh shit, they're just going all the way for it. This is more like I've spent almost 200 chapters with these characters, and in the last 3, they make dumb decisions and it time skips stuff, and it's bullshit. So yeah, this was.
Well,
fun.
you only like that because you were not invested, right?
That's
it's
well,
like
yeah, and it was more the shock gag value. I mean, I'm also a guy that if you ask me about the ending of School Days, I think the ending of School Days is fucking genius, and most people think it's like, bad. So
I think it's like easier to have that take when you're 1 foot out the door, right? Like I can say the same thing about School Days because I also feel that, but I also don't care what happens to the characers in School Days, right?
That's true. It's not really about like I'm invested in the characters and I care. Yeah. So
exactly.
I am interested. I'm interested in what other people thought about. Well, no, we'll talk about that later because we have a best endings thing. Yeah. Let's just move on to the next one.
I think everyone. We already talked about it to death, and I think everyone universally agrees that. This was the worst
There's
thing
a
of the
single
year.
person. Even the people who were like, I thought it was okay. Were like, it could use more time. It skipped some stuff. It just didn't resolve anything. Yeah, and yeah, I mean there were some bad starts to stuff, but this one hurt more for us because if you'd have asked us, 6 months ago, I'd be like, yeah, Ocean Echo is one of the best things being published right now. Like, it's amazing. It's great.
Me too.
And
That's
3 months ago,
part.
it was like, oh, it's setting up. Like, it's still really good. And then you get to the end, and you're like, I would tell people, like, do not read it. Do not waste your time.
It was insane. Anyway.
Very, very unfortunate. Let's go over to the next one. A little bit of an artistic thing. This is the best art/artist. For some reason, this font that I used didn't have a slash, so I had to put a dash. But the best art and artist. I have nominated Kei Arana from Gachiakuta. Gautam has nominated Ogureitu for Kaijin Fugeki, Kindred Spirits. This is an interesting debate. And not to sort of speak for your side here, but Ogre does a pretty realistic and detailed style, I would say. And Kei Arana, I think, is all about style. So this is
for sure.
This is two kind of different apples versus oranges. Which one do we like more?
Okay, so it's tough, right? Because Kei Arana, I think, has I like that style a lot.
Me too.
I like how heavy the lines are. It just looks phenomenal. O'Great is the better artist because, of course, he is. I've read Air Gear. It's insane.
I read Bakemonogatari. It's similarly fucking insane, the art in those series.
So I guess the question is not... It's impossible to say which art or artist is better because that's not... That it's subjective, but which style do we like better? Like what is more aesthetically pleasing to you? Is the question.
And let me make a case for Kei Arana here because something that I really like about Kei Arana is that she has her style, which she draws, which is, like you mentioned, the very heavy lines, but her ability to swap between styles and go to like a goofier style or she often will jump into sort of like a sketchy kind of wild line style for big moments. Her ability to swap styles and make an impact with her art in that way, I think, is why I just love her work as an artist. Like it just is it's so much more interesting to me to have something that has its own personality and identity and to be able to kind of swap to these slightly different styles. I mean, even looking at this cover here that I grabbed, this isn't really the style you normally see in Gachiakuta. It's close to it, but it's still a little bit different even here. I just think her ability to do all those different things, and jump between styles and use an artistic change or a big splash page to really make an impact. And she doesn't do very many splash pages. I mean, we sort of did our review, our deep dive read through of Gachiakuta on this channel. You can go check that out. I don't know. It's just like, I am someone who values style and diversity more than this guy draws people that look more like people. While at the same time, I very much respect being able to draw people that look like real people.
With that said, I don't think we can say that all Kaijin Fugeki has going for it is realism, because there are some amazing like cyberpunk mixed with like Eastern religious symbolism. Like it's like a techno priest is in the first chapter, right? Yeah. It's like, that is so dope. That is insane. I've not seen anything like that.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about the true achievement, like the greatest thing Oh Great maybe has ever done is that this guy's such a good artist. He drew a two-headed girl, and I look at that and I go, that is a beautiful girl, and I see nothing wrong with having two heads, because this guy can somehow just draw a girl with two heads and still make her beautiful somehow. And it's like, okay, man, that is artistic talent if I've ever seen it.
I hate to correct you, but there is one thing that's better. In a chapter of Air Gear, Barack Obama swaps bodies with a high school girl.
Yes,
And
you've told me about that.
they both have a Freaky Friday situation where they live in each other's shoes.
I need to read Air Gear. I thought Air Gear was not about that, but yeah,
it's a huge shitpost. It's good.
This is a tough one, because I have said in the past that, and maybe even last year or in the 1 or 2 years ago in the nominations, I think maybe for this one I nominated Bakemonogatari Oh Great.
I think you did.
I think it was maybe 2 years ago in the first awards. But yeah, I mean, I think Oh Great is a generational talent, along with people like Murata, which, by the way, we always exclude Murata of One Piece, or no, sorry, of One Punch Man fame, because he's unrivaled. He's the best artist. Yeah, it's cheating. He would win every year. Is there anything? I mean, I would sell that. I think Keiran is good at like blocking and angles and paneling. I think Oh Great is also really good at that kind of stuff. So that's maybe a wash between those two.
I have been flip-flopping on my vote for the last like minute and a half we've been talking about this, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say in regards to what you mentioned about how Kei Arana does like certain scenes for different, like certain styles for different vibes, like when it's goofy or whatever. You remember I loved when you remember when Naruto ate so much candy he got really fat.
Yeah.
And
like flies
at the beginning
out
of the chapter
door.
it was like set up as like this horror scene, and the gag at the end it was just fat Rudo.
Yeah.
Like I love that. It was like
and that's all art,
like a horror.
Yeah, I don't think there's much voiceover in those scenes. I think that's all done visually in the first 2 pages and the last page. Yeah,
that was just an example I thought of when you mentioned that. It was like she's very, very good, and her action paneling is nuts. It looks awesome.
It's so great. Yeah, and just this, like, her character design also, like, I love Oh Great, and Kaijin Fugeki is cool. He's drawing kind of normal people with a character design on top of them. Gachiakuda has characters, man. Like,
you're right.
The design of Engine is like unique. Engine is one of my favorite characters in like all manga at this point, and I know that more stuff's coming. Rudo's great, Rio's great, everyone's great. My vote casts on Kei Arana because, like I said, I think I value style and being able to kind of swap styles and do more interesting, different things than I am just I draw people really well, which again, Oh Great does even more than that, but I just value those things a lot more. So I think my vote's got to go to the one I brought, I guess. But
I'll also say I align with that because I think every single character is very unique. I like how all their eyes are drawn differently. I love the graffiti artist who does all the graffiti in that series. So I give it Gachi.
Yeah, and I'm going to give Kei Arana bonus points for something that doesn't even really matter. Bonus points to Kei Arana for either not realizing or just wanting to collaborate with another artist to do graffiti for her, because I don't necessarily, she thinks like, oh, I can't do that, but to bring another artist into your series and give them the chance to show off what they can do too, I think that's also great. So cool.
You know, it's like, I think that's like above and beyond, isn't it? Because if it were me, I'd just be like, okay, there's going to be no graffiti in this series because I don't want to have to deal with it. I won't do it. Yeah, exactly. But again, she went above and beyond, got like a pro on it, and graffiti's everywhere, and it looks great. Yeah,
cool. Winner there, Kei Arana's Gachiakuta. Happy for that one. Next up, best writing.
Real quick, Bruce. Yeah. I still align that it should be Gachiakuta, but I feel like we're wrong.
What do you mean?
I feel like we, even though we both voted for Gachiakuta, I feel like a part of me is like, it should go to Oh Great. I
will say this. Of all of these we're voting for are obviously our tastes brought by our nominations, colored by our experiences and what we like. This one is maybe the most subjective one, because visual art is a very hard thing to say. This is the best, right? Is is the Mona Lisa the best art of all time? Or, is there a panel of Kaijin Fugeki that's the best art of all time? Or is the best art of all time not drawn art? Is it the melting clocks thing? Is it like choosing the best art is potentially the most subjective thing you will ever have to vote on. And what we're doing here is picking a lot of the quote unquote best art, but visual art especially, I think, is just such a diverse and multifaceted thing to choose that, yeah, I might wake up tomorrow and be like, oh great, is better. I should have voted for him. And it's just so subjective. It's hard to choose. So yeah.
Well, so sorry to besmirch Oh Great. We still love you, man. You keep on keeping on. It looks great.
Yeah. I mean, he got second place, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, second place. That's good.
Okay, best writing. This is an award we give based solely on sort of the script behind it.
So you decided to choose violence, huh? Okay, got it.
I have nominated Akane Banashi here, and Gautam has brought The Bugle Call, which I've heard a lot about, but I have not read. So why don't you start with Sell Me on the Bugle Call?
Yeah, because we can keep Akane short because we talk about it to death. We love it. I think both of our top 5, it's in there. The Bugle Call is a story about a bugler. And basically he is kind of the tactician for an army. Essentially it's that he plays the bugle in such a way that he can kind of guide people guide armies in chaotic battlefields in a way that they all align to the order. Like he can communicate with every soldier in a chaotic battlefield via his bugle. And they all understand and can follow his instructions in that way. It's a very cool take on war and these medieval battles where communication, when things get hectic, is like damn near impossible, right? Yeah. One general yelling at his soldiers, probably most of them will miss that. Like maybe half of them will miss the order because they're fighting for their lives out there. But it's essentially a story about this kid who has a bugle and is able to kind of dictate the flow of a battlefield in an incredibly favorable way for them.
Just Fire Emblem, the manga.
Yeah, it's kinda, right? He is like a FE character. He's like a support character. But the writing isn't just good because of him. Every single side character is nuanced, morally great. Even the villains, in a way that like the heroes or the army he's aligned with don't necessarily feel like the good guy, and the bad guys don't necessarily feel like the bad guy. It's war.
Yeah,
and I think it is exceptionally a funny series too when it wants to be. Some of the side chapters are fucking hilarious. Like there's a side chapter where they introduce this specialized elite team of villains who all have their unique special powers, and they all just get gunned down because the soldiers are listening to the orders and they know like how to coordinate capture or like routing. So they like one of them has like animal control. So her and a bunch of like animals charge the battlefield, and there's just like a line of crossbowmen who just fire as soon as they leave the forest and gun her down.
That
like,
sounds hilarious.
It's dark comedy in how much setup they were given, you know,
cool,
to just die instantly. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things about this, and I think there's an anime on the way. I want to say maybe that was announced recently, or maybe it's already out.
The word bugle.
Bugle is an interesting. I mean, I like the chipped bugle. Have you ever had those?
Is that a food?
Yeah, bugles. Do you not? Have you never had a bugle? They're called.
Are you thinking? Am I messing bagels?
Up? No, it's like a triangle. Yeah, like bugles, like these little.
Oh,
You've never had these?
Claw.
Okay.
No, I've seen them.
You put them on your fingers and they're fun. They're good. I don't know. Anyways, Akane Banashi, I think, is the best written thing Weekly Shonen Jump has ever published in its 50-year run. Like, I don't think anything else comes even close. Like, as good as I think One Piece is, I think One Piece is good for a lot of other reasons, and its writing is very good. I think Akane is better. Like I just don't even all the things you said about the Bugle's Call about comedy and about side characters being quality and just touching moments and plot momentum and the way it's structured. It starts out and it's structured like a sports manga, and then it's not anymore. I don't like it's just well written to like the nth degree. Like it's just so good. There's not a single chapter that happens where I go, oh, that one doesn't make sense or that slipped. Akane Banashi does not miss a beat in its script. And Akane, I think, is, we'll see later on in the nominations, I think Akane is one of the best main characters. I think the series is amazing. I think this is one of, if not the best written series around right now. And I know that people are going to go, oh, he's just a shonen reader who only reads shonen from Weekly Shonen Jump. And it's like, no, that's not true. This is better than so many things that I think other people would say that's quality of writing. It just works on so many levels. Like you said, it's funny, it's heartfelt, it's dramatic, it's exciting. The stories, the way that the Rakugo stories are woven into the stories of the characters is excellent. The kind of growth and character development of every single person in the story. Yeah, I can and will gush about this more as I think it has more nominees later on. But yeah, I think Akane is just exceptional.
I have a lot to say on Akane, but let's save it. Let's save it because we have it a few more times, and we'll just get it all out of the way in maybe the last one.
Yeah. Do we agree on Akane?
Okay. You chose violence, clearly. It's Akane.
Yeah, I chose what I thought was the best written thing.
It's so fucked up of you. Okay.
Well, it's going to come up more. All right. Moving on. This is best seinen series. Last year, I think this was best non-shonen that we read, but because these are two nominees, I just kind of narrowed it down to best seinen. I have brought here Asadora by Naoki Urasawa, the unrivaled, unmatched, and you have brought Tower Dungeon by Tsutomu Nihei. These are both two kind of one is kind of incredibly old, long-standing genius and great, and Tsutomu Nihei also has been publishing, a lot of quality things for lots of years with a lot of fans.
This is maybe the one I didn't bounce off of this because I tried to read Blame.
Same. Yeah,
I actually did. I didn't know it was the same author initially, but I tried to read Blame a while ago. But I was also young and less patient when I tried, so maybe it just didn't resonate at the time. But Tower Dungeon is fucking phenomenal. Oh, sorry, I just started up, but
go for it.
Yeah, I'll go first again. Tower Dungeon is just like, I think you'd agree, Bruce. It's just like it's very good, and it is like I feel like the kind of fantasy that instantly hooks you. It's this like dark.
It's fantasy. Familiar but different, which is what's cool about it. Is you go, oh yeah, I understand high fantasy tropes, and then they're kind of all broken down into something slightly different, which I think is cool.
And I think all of the most interesting questions are left unanswered, but that's satisfying.
And I think that's part of Nihei's style, is that he's not, as much as he is sort of like built he does a lot of cool world building. He's not someone who's going to tell you all the details behind anything, right? Like a lot of it is left to mystery. And I think that's part of the power of Tower Dungeon, what makes it so cool.
Yeah. I like, and just a few examples of that. It's like the main character is obscenely strong, and the characters, like the side characters, all notice that this guy is anomalously strong. Right. But they don't say anything about it. They don't even talk to themselves about it. There's just a panel with them glancing and like noticing something is different here. And you as the audience notice the same thing, because like in a shonen, of course, like people are going to be infinitely strong. But in this setting, I think the characters are like looking over like, whoa, what the fuck?
It's weird to be like,
oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird to be like, it's a very realistic fantasy when the person on the cover here is like a mage or whatever. But
it's a more grounded fantasy, I guess.
Yeah, from the get-go in chapter 1, you see massive swaths of people dying and getting, overtaken by the tower and stuff. And so yeah, to have it's I think Tsutomu Nihei as an author is I'm trying to remember what exactly it said. There's lots of stuff in movies and writing and things like that about what goes left unsaid, like what exists in the spaces, what's not there as opposed to what you put there. And I think that Nihei and Tower Dungeon is a series like that. I think all his series are like this, right? Where you can read a lot into the things that aren't there or that aren't said or that exist in spaces and moments where no one says anything, or panels of the tower that show you something but don't tell you anything about it, and implied corpses, implied violence, implied political stuff that, again, it's none of this is like, barely any of this is directly stated. It's really just a story about a group of, 3 people trying to go up a tower to save a princess, which sounds kind of boring, but like, yeah, I don't know.
Towers, bro.
I'm kind of a sucker for towers also, and this one is my favorite so far. It reminds me a lot. Tell me if this rings true for you. It reminds me a lot of Delicious in Dungeon, where they're going down into a dungeon, but this time it's a tower dungeon. But it has a lot of the same sort of, like, the tower is its own kind of environment, its own like terrarium full of things that live above and below each other, that feed off each other. And I think that's really cool. Yeah. World building here is great. Characters are interesting. It's also got some fun humor. I think his art has improved.
This is the like one of the main characters, this girl. She is like incredibly unreasonable, rude, mean, temperamental, not super logical when she needs to be logical. Like, she has mostly negative traits. She's but
kind of a bitch, still, but also really funny, and I love her.
She's a huge bitch, but she's like my favorite character. I do love her. She's
I
great.
really like the MC, but she's like, yeah, unrivaled, one of the best. Like,
yeah. Just to add on to your point about like how these unsaid things adds to the atmosphere. Like, in the first chapter, they were going through the tower, and the main character notices, like, on a lower level, that there are just a bunch of humans, just naked and wandering about, like 100 humans. And the captain says, "Don't look at them. They're not human." And then they're not actually humans. And they just are silent, and they keep walking. And I'm like, what is that about? See, like, that's creepy. That's scarier than telling me, it's like, oh, they're ghouls, actually. It's like, leave it unknown. It's it adds to the mystery, it adds to the horror.
It's a cool series. I won't speak for too long on Asadora because you haven't read it and I have. It's like, it's just more Naoki Urasawa, like, and that means that it should win this category in my opinion. Naoki Urasawa is one of the greatest modern authors. I think he is the greatest living mangaka. I think everything he's done has been head and shoulders above, like the Monster and Pluto and Billy Bat and 20th Century Boys and 21st Century Boys, same series technically. I think those 4 series are better. Those 4 series are better than most of the books I've ever read in my life. Like, let alone the manga, right? Like, and in general, I think books are better than manga just because there's kind of more of a, from a writing perspective, and Asadora is about a girl who starts immediately in post-war Japan, who there is a flood in her town, and she kind of meets up with this destitute guy who happens to be an old, I think he was a kamikaze pilot, or maybe he was just a bomber pilot for the Japanese Air Force. And it kind of leads on this story, this quest. Godzilla is kind of the thing. Like, that's like, there's some kind of sea monster that is implied to be very similar to Godzilla. That is the reason her town gets wiped out. So this goes through a lot of time skips, which is also another very Naoki Urasawa thing. Billy Bat and 20th Century Boys both do this. Billy Bat has 6 or 8 time skips in it. 20th Century Boys has, I think, 2 big time skips. She starts off, she's like a 6-year-old. Later on, she's 14 and she's like the greatest pilot, like the greatest pilot Japan has, basically, because she's been training since she was really little. And there's, it's just, it's just Naoki Urasawa, man. Like, if you haven't read his stuff, that doesn't mean anything to you. Go read Pluto. Like, that's the shortest thing he's written that's probably quality and available today. And you'll see what I mean. It's just more of Naoki Urasawa, and it's so good, and his art is so unique and special. And yeah, he just, like, I don't know. Nobody else is quite as good with, like, something I particularly like about Naoki Urasawa, no one else has as many just like old and middle-aged people in leading and prominent roles in their series. Like Naoki Urasawa's stories are not ever they're not ever really about kids, even though a lot of them do kind of start out starring kids. They're always about kind of like adults and adult problems and like the real world and real world stuff. And while at the same time holding on to this kind of like hopeful, artistic, I don't know, man, he's just the greatest modern author in Japan. Like he's so good.
You are
and
a fanboy. I'm
such a
fanboy. Is
fanboy.
already biased by a large margin. Therefore,
It's great.
Tower Dungeon.
Should we just go
I
with
will
the one
say
we've both read?
I'll defer to you since you read both. I'll defer to you, but just know that I brought like the book equivalent of Ender's Game, and you brought To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes, correct. Essentially, To Kill a Mockingbird, A War and Peace. Yeah, Japanese manga War and Peace. If you're deferring to me, I will say this. I will say this. These are both really good, and everyone should go and read both of these. And do not think that the winner means that one of these is worth reading and one is not worth reading. I don't think that's true of any of the competition we'll have here.
Except for maybe Oshinoko.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's hard because on one hand, it's like Asadora is Naoki. Like, have you read how much of Naoki Urasawa have you read? Like,
none.
Okay, well, you're a fucker, and you need to read some Naoki Urasawa, and you would understand. Even if
I
you had
watched
just
the first
read
episode
one.
of Monster.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've heard the anime is good, but I don't know. It's I can't not pick Naoki Urasawa. He's just that good. You need to read something by him. Like you need to try to read 20th Century Boys or Monster or Pluto just to see like, oh, actually, yes, this guy is like a master novelist writing manga that is still really good. I cannot pick it. I hope that this maybe encourages more people to read it. I have to pick Asadora here, even though I think Tower Dungeon is just exceptional. Like it's just, yeah.
Fair enough. Urasawa is a legend, honestly.
Yes.
So
and a
doubt
deserved legend. Like he is not an undeserving legend.
With that said, I do think if you had a gun and you had to either shoot me or Urasawa, you would kill me. That is how I feel about it.
It would, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
The real challenge here is Arakawa and Urasawa, and which one do I shoot? And that's a choice I would shoot myself in.
Well, yeah, you shoot yourself.
I'm not making that choice. Sorry, the two artists can live. Cool. This is a little award that we started doing, I think, last year, which is something we think, again, that's kind of underread, doesn't really fit into other categories, but we think is definitely worth reading. This is just our Hidden Gem Award. This year, I have brought Shiba Inu Rooms by Esu Omori, and Gautam has brought The Demon Bunch by Kato Takuji. I'll go first since you took first last time. Shiba Inu Rooms is a cute, heartfelt little thing about a ghost Shiba Inu living with a girl who is not really phased or afraid of ghosts in any way.
But she's afraid of dogs, right?
Was she afraid of dogs? I don't think. Maybe a little bit in the first chapter, but she gets over it pretty quick.
Gotcha.
And this has the greatest facial expressions of any manga I have ever read. The dog in this series is maybe second place for my best character of the year. I love this dog. And I think this resonates with me a little bit more because I have a dog similar kind of size of a Shiba. I don't know. It's just kind of like it's cute, it's heartfelt, it's hilarious. Like this is really a really funny series, and I just think it's really great. If you're looking for something kind of cute, heartfelt, like your girlfriend who loves dog needs a manga to read and you don't know what to suggest to her, Shiba Inu Rooms. Like seriously, this is good for everybody. I absolutely love this series. It didn't really fit into anything else, I didn't think, so I really wanted to bring it here. Gautam, tell me about The Demon Bunch.
I thought Shiba Inu Rooms was great too. It was a fun slice of life. But yeah, The Demon Bunch is it's a webcomic. I usually see it on like Reddit, so that's how I found it initially, but then I started following it on Manga Dex. It is like a bunch of vignettes following like 5 different groups of characters. The first one is like the main character in like this lady he saves, but the lady is actually like a mimic, a demon mimic, just pretending to be a lady, and he's looking for any opportunity to kill him or set him up for failure, i.e., fight some incredibly strong monster. But the dude is just obscenely stupid and overpowered. He does not notice she is a mimic at any point, but he also is not remotely challenged by anything she throws his way or gets him into. It's just like I think like there was a thing where like a minotaur like swung a club at him, and he punched the hammer and made the minotaur cartoonishly spin around. Like the top half of him spun off his body like a corkscrew. But yeah, and it's just that's like one group. And the mimic is like trying to get him killed, but slowly coming around. And yeah, they're just a bunch of small stories progressing in fun ways.
Cool.
I would say it is pretty horny.
I was going to say,
also,
I was looking for, there's no volume covers for this because it's a web manga. And basically at the end of every chapter, there's just a bunch of horny drawings. And I was like, I need to find, this is the least horny one I could find to put in as a picture here. So
yeah, I think the horniness is more in the cover arts than anything.
Yeah, that's from what I saw it was.
But yeah, it's like, it's funny, it's meaningful, but it's like mostly a comedy, I'd say, more than anything.
Yeah.
It's just like a comedy that sometimes tells like serious stories every once in a while. But go into it reading for a good time. Cool.
I'm going to say no losers here. These are both hidden gems, and you should go and read both of them. And picking a winner is pointless on this one. So
it is pointless.
Let's move on. These are both really good. You should go and check both of them. Best romance. This was kind of a tough one because I didn't feel like there was too many particularly strong ones. I brought Blooming Love by Daichi Kawada, and Gautam brought Hokago Kitaku Biori by Matsudamai, which is a cute one. Yeah, which is, I think the English translation is like it's like our daily walk to school or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but
yeah, this is you start with yours actually, because I've read both of these.
Yeah, so Blooming Love is a story of two, a drum maker girl and an artist guy who kind of fall in love in high school and start dating pretty quick. And this year especially, I think it's been particularly good because they have sort of progressed to college age. I think that this is not perfect, but I think one of the better representations of how a relationship actually kind of progresses. I think it's sort of coded in Japanese youth in some ways that aren't totally applicable to the West, but like liking each other and like they go on dates and it's cute and they, forced to like, sleep together in a hotel when they're on a hiking trip or something when they're, 20 or whatever. And I don't know, it's just incredibly cute and uplifting. It's just one of those romance series where it's fluffy and it's good. And the drama that happens is very, it's dramatic, but kind of not, it's not any world ending type thing. And so it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those series that just feels like, yeah, this is just kind of classic, simple romance executed really well. And I just like it every single week. I think it goes interesting places. I think they're expanding it to some of the side characters now, which I think is great. I thought that the confession, which I think was at the beginning of the year or earlier in the year, I thought it was really good. Yeah, I think the art in this is gorgeous. It just, I don't know. It's just a really good, solid series that I think has a good romance in it. So
I do think it's good. I do think the characters are both interesting. I like that I like that girl is a drum maker. I think that's very interesting. Not enough friction for me. I think there has to be at least a little bit.
Yeah. There is the friction is very light most of the time. Or awkward friction, I would say, is present. I can see that criticism. Tell me about Hokago.
It is your classic childhood friend love story, but told from
the
girl's
loses.
Perspective.
Oh, okay.
Except she doesn't lose this
the childhood friend always loses.
Maybe she will. Maybe she will. Who knows? Maybe it turns out to be school days. Who knows? But I don't know. It's told from the girl's perspective, and I think that is unique because usually it's not.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, usually they're told primarily from the dude's perspective with some insight into the girl's perspective, but this one's the reverse of that. And it's I like while we were recording this, I actually wish I picked, instead of the Demon Bunch or even this for this category, a cat's paw Nobels manga.
Yes,
that would have been perfect versus Shiba Inu Rooms. I wish I thought of it, but
yeah, that's another good one. You should go check that out.
I actually, if I had to redo this category, I would actually put a cat's paw in here because I really like that. I think Nobel.
Oh, really? I like that one too. I don't know if it's the best romance this year, but I do like.
Well, I didn't think there were a lot of good romances this year.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the only other things I thought about for this one would be like Blue Box, which I think continues to be a really good series. The romance has been a bit lighter this year, if I remember right. I don't think they had their confession this year. I think that was last year. Maybe it was this year.
That was last year.
I think it was last year, but yeah, I don't know. I'll defer to you on this one since you've read both of these and you deferred to me on the last one. Which one of these do you actually think is a better romance here?
I'll pick mine.
Okay.
I think Blooming Love has the same problem as A Blooming Flower Blooms with Dignity.
Oh yeah.
Whatever that one. The Apology Wars.
This surely is better than Apology Wars, right?
Well, I don't think Apology Wars is bad. It's just that people are too reasonable in both series. And the problem with people being too reasonable is that there's no friction in the story and they just make correct decisions or healthy decisions.
Yeah, I will say, if you're looking for like flawed main characters struggling through life, it's like, no, like the flaws that happen are very much like outside of the two lead characters' controls. Like, oh no, a drum didn't make it, or I have to perform with my mom who I haven't seen and I don't know if I know the drum part. It's like not much is really truly wrong with these two people other than their kind of insecurities with themselves. But yeah, like you said, I think it's not a strong year for romance, I would say.
And I think for like, depending on what you're trying to get out of a romance, that could be perfect. But for me, I think to stay interested, I need a little bit of friction.
Yeah.
Like, that stems from like a personality flaw or a character trait.
For sure, yeah. I guess the other thing here that we could have brought was Nagatoro, which ended this year. Which I think was a very good romance at the end of it. So
yeah, Nagatoro is great.
Cool. We have a winner there. We have Gautam's Hokagu Kitaku Biori. Let's go to the next one. This is another hard one. Because again, maybe second to art, comedy is maybe the other most subjective thing where comedy is not the same between any two people. These are both very funny series. I will say, though, I have brought Machi and Oboru by Yura Ishito, and Gautam has brought Momose Akira's First Love Struggles by Harakawa Shinta. Why don't you go first here, Gautam?
Yeah, so Momose Akira's First Love Struggles, I could have gone in the romance category, but I feel like it fits the comedy category even better because Momose Akira is in love with this dude, and the dude is in love with her, but they are both terrible at communicating for different reasons. Akira is just incapable of speaking to him or communicating in a proper way. Anything she does so clumsily. It looks like she's either threatening him or is acting erratically or hates him. And the main character, it doesn't help that our Deku-like dude is... Akira is the main character, but our Deku-like dude is like a huge idiot. He doesn't...
Yeah.
He misinterprets what anyone would assume is Akira hating them as something else that's not even like the first... Like, if you see a fire, your first inkling would be to like put it out with a fire extinguisher. This guy's would be to like, I don't know, dig up the dirt next to the fire and start throwing it on the fire. Like
well, that's actually a really good way to put out a fire. But
okay, I should have thought of something else. I couldn't come up with anything.
That's actually kind of how you're supposed to put out fires. But
I was building the plane as I was flying it. But
yeah, that's fair.
You know what I'm getting at is like his first impulse is not what a logical person would assume to be the case.
Yeah, this is big. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when we brought it, but big Aharon-san. If you were into that series, this is the same kind of series where they kind of are both into each other, but they're awkward and weird in different ways, and they misunderstand they misunderstand or misexecute in different ways that are fun, funny, and cute. And yeah, that's a good one.
And I think like you're right. It is just like a reincarnation of a harem, which because they're not just awkward, they take it a step further.
They're
into
weirdos
insanity.
too.
Yeah, they're weirdos.
They're weirdos,
Yeah.
which is the fun part, right? It isn't just like, oh, the girl makes a plan and can't get the words out in front of him, and the guy doesn't understand and gets it wrong. It's like, no, her getting it wrong means that she's like throwing him to the ground in a suplex and then just like saying right and then like leaving or whatever, and then he just thinks like, oh no, she hates that I ate rice today for lunch. I can never eat rice again. It's stuff like that.
There's like another one where she tries to like call him to like this dark, isolated room to like confess her feelings and cover his eyes, right? Like as a flirting thing. Yeah. But she covers his mouth instead in like a very threatening way.
Like she's abducting him. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
It's very great.
Yeah. It's a good, funny series. I have brought Machi and Oboro. I think this is one of the funniest series since like since like Kaguya-sama. Like, and this reminds me a lot, I think, of Kaguya if we're comparing it to something. This is about Machi is kind of a normal transfer girl who's kind of incredibly smart, top of her class, and then Oboro is a ninja who ran away from her town and is this kind of super outgoing, kind of blasé, whatever, I'll handle it, don't worry about it type character. Their dynamic as a two-person group is like the only thing I can really compare it to is Kaguya and what was the other girl in Kaguya who I'm forgetting? Fujiwara, yeah. Of this kind of like super serious top of her class type along with this like uncontrolled agent of chaos. And that's like exactly the dynamic in Machi and Oboro. I think where Machi and Oboro really gets good is that these two are on the same side and living together and kind of trying to work with each other. And then the third parties that show up are hilarious. Like at one point,
I know.
There was one point, there's like another ninja guy who came here to like track Oboro down. And it turns out he's just like, what is it? He's like lost in gambling or something. And it's just like,
well, he's jealous of Oboro because she is like TikTok famous.
That's right. Yeah. She's like, yeah.
She ran away from the ninja village and got TikTok famous because she's like a hot girl. But,
and he's like, if I kill you, then I will take your power of social media. And it's just so ridiculous and so funny. But at the same time, like, and this is maybe not even speaking to the comedy part of it. There's like some real serious stuff. Like very early on, there's one of the antagonist girls like, starts a rumor about Machi and all this bad stuff and gets her unpopular. And the way Machi like confronts that at the end of the first like chapter or two, I think is really like mature and straightforward and good. I think the writing in this series is really good. I also just think like it's just the right amount of absurdist and weird while also being like interesting and cool. And I think the art is good. The girls get like haircuts and like totally change their styles, which is something I think is really cool. That's something like Gachiaku also does, right? Characters like change clothes and get haircuts a lot, which I think is neat. This is just like, again, nothing has really reminded me of, especially the early, like the first 100 or so chapters of Kaguya-sama Love is War. And Machi no Oboro like brings me back to those moments and really has a lot of the same comedy. And I think is just really smart and well thought out and funny in the right kind of weird modern ways. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a really great, really funny series.
Easy choice in my eyes.
You think? Which one?
Machi no Oboro.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Momosawa Curious is good.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, Machi no Oboro is like laugh out loud funny on the page, which is not an easy thing to do.
The ninja guy's problem was that like, it's like, I just want to do nothing and just make money existing like you are. Yeah. And it's not fair that I don't get to do that.
Yeah. And they send him away. And
I'm like, you're being unreasonable.
No, don't they like sign him up and make him their slave or something to like, I don't know.
I think the police chase him off in that.
That's right. Yeah. It's like a creepy way. The girls like scream like it's a weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think, and it's like interesting how Machi and Oboro, if you boil down the premise, it is ninja moves in with normal girl. And it's interesting how I think normal girl is like the more interesting of the two characters.
Well,
not that Obara is not, but
well, and the other thing, and this is also kind of the same, also true of Momoso Akira, is that they're both weirdos. Like they're both weirdos in different ways, and that's what makes it interesting. Is like different weirdos interacting with each other is better than a straight man and a weirdo sometimes, or lets both of them kind of play the straight man. So
you're right. Yeah, they swap off playing the straight man depending on who's being unreasonable at the moment.
Which is a real kind of genius author script there. Let's do, before we kind of get into our final, I guess the kind of our last three awards here. Let's just go through some honorable mentions. We've brought a lot of these up in the past of things we think. I think these are things that were not nominated for any awards, but we still think are pretty worthwhile and you should check out.
Sakamoto Days was. But
do what?
Sakamoto Days is nominated.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, well, I threw it on here because it's a great series.
Hey, let's give it a shot anyway.
Yeah. Galaxius, again, like we talked about in the starting thing, this is also one of the best new manga this year. Nothing has captured the spirit of One Piece that I've ever read except for Galaxius that started this year. I think everyone should check it out. I think it's great.
It's fairy tale done right. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Iruma-kun, that's one that Gautam goes on endlessly and is brought a bunch of times to the podcast. That is great. I have not read it yet. I need to. It's like 400 chapters, so it's scary big, but
it's good.
Yep. Sakamoto Days, we'll talk a little bit about that one, I think, in the upcoming award. Yomi no Tsugai, you thought you were going to get through an episode without me mentioning this. No, you were wrong. You were not. This is Hiromu Arakawa, the author of Full Metal Alchemist, her new fantasy series, Yomi no Tsugai. I could have nominated this. Let's see, how many awards could I have nominated this for? This could have been the best manga. This could have had best character, best chapter moment, sure. Complete story arc, nah, probably not that one. Best seinen, it's kind of a seinen shonen. Best writing, yeah, could have been nominated for all those. It's a great fucking series. I love this series more than anything. I had to shut myself up about it in these awards because while it had a good year, it was not. It just kept going and it was just continually good. So, Sono Biscuit, this is My Dress Up Darling is its English name. This moved to monthly, I want to say late last year. So we have not gotten many chapters of it. I will say, Sono Bistal maybe should have been my nominee for best romance. It had one of the best confessions I have ever read, and one of probably the best post-confession chapter I've ever read in a manga.
We should have put that on the list. That sounds better.
It's really good. It's like it's a little inconsistent because leading up to the confession was a lot of like. It was idiot plot leading up to the confession where it's like, why don't you two just fucking talk to each other for like 3 or 4 chapters? Like, no, I need to let them go. I need to not be good, or they don't like me. There was like that for 3 chapters. And then it was the best confession ever, which like, I think part of it was releasing that tension of them kind of doing the idiot plot for that long. But yeah, I think My Dress Up Darling, Sono Bistal is awesome. I think Marin is one of the greatest female protagonists in any romance manga ever. And it's great. The last one I want to bring up is Ogami Sumiki's Normal Everyday Life. This is the sort of monster people, high school sort of slice of life, minor romance type thing. I've been keeping up with this. It's just kind of casually. And this is just a really solid kind of slice of life thing that I think is really great, really sweet, really interesting kind of with, spider girls and unicorn girls and how do they, get through the sports festival with doing all that. And I think that the lead character, I think Ogami is a really interesting character too. So yeah, lots of really strong.
That was a fun read.
Yeah. Lots of really strong, female leads in this list too. So cool. Okay, let's go on to the last 3 here, starting with another one I think that is always a highly competitive category. Best story arc, which for some reason... Oh, no, there it is. Best completed story arc. I have brought One Piece Egghead, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and you brought Spy Family Martha's War. Why don't you tell us about Martha's War, since we already talked about Egghead a little bit with this flashback? Yeah,
so this is a story of a missed connection, which is just tragic, right? Like, that in and of itself is a little tragic. But the reason the misconnection happened is even more tragic.
Yes.
Essentially, Martha had enlisted for what is this world's World War One,
I guess technically
equivalent. Yeah. And it is just a brutal story about how, despite loving each other, she she gets drafted to war. And her female battalion is completely wiped. The news relays that everyone died, but she had survived somehow and
taken in by the other side, which is
or on the run within the other side, and then harbored as a fugitive by people who sympathized or people who saw her as a human being who needed to be taken care of. And she is on the run, a fugitive, but is like she stays with this granny who's like, she's reminded of her daughter, of course. So she takes Martha in, and it's just kind of a beautiful depiction of how fucked up war is.
Yeah.
And how inherently we dehumanize each other in order to commit atrocities against each other for whatever gain.
Yeah. Well, and even more so than that, I think the real tragedy of this story arc, which I also absolutely adore, by the way, the real tragedy of this is that Martha volunteers for the war thinking that, oh, if I can save the things that I love, if I can protect them, it'll be worth it to go to war, and comes out the other side of this story, of this war flashback, thinking that was the wrong choice to make and it didn't matter and I was stupid for making that choice. And I think that is such a like intense and kind of personal anti-war statement. And well, all the anti-war stuff is, innocent people get hurt and war is bad. It's just killing. No one wins in war, blah, blah, blah. But to sort of really get at the heart of you people who are volunteering for war, thinking that you're going to somehow protect the thing that you love the most, that's a useless decision to make. And I think I just think that really cuts at something that I have not seen addressed a lot of times in anti-war sentiment. And yeah, it's, and the misconnection.
Wait, hold on, let me finish what I was saying.
Yeah.
To wrap up what I was saying, I think it kind of beautifully connects, just that the other side are exactly like you, that there's no tangible difference. Maybe in culture, but we're all just human beings at the end of the day. And I think it's especially true when the old granny sees Martha as just kind of an equivalent for her daughter. I like you mentioned, it's just I love how it is depicted that she just made the wrong decision.
Yeah,
completely. Like she regrets it. And I think the
and is
story arc is
for
wrapped up. Yeah, is punished for it. And I think the story arc is wrapped up in a beautiful way where they get to share a dance in their twilight years.
Mm-hmm. Because then from a dance that was interrupted by a bombing originally. Yeah, this is, I mean, you're definitely right that this hits on like all of this anti-war sentiment in such a good way, in that, her battalion is wiped out. Someone from the other side of the war, that just sees her as a human, takes her in, helps her get out. She, is a refugee for years, makes it out. But yeah, I mean, the real saddest part, just because that's kind of the way that Spy Family is, it really is this misconnection with the headmaster. Because
I agree.
Like reading their flashback and, knowing that they aren't together in the present timeline, and then seeing how immaculately, written and developed their relationship was with the Tea Party thing and the dance. And then like the dance being interrupted by the bombing. And then you almost immediately go into Martha volunteers for the war. She leaves, she, is on the run. The headmaster has to get remarried. Like he doesn't have to, but he like makes the choice to get remarried.
Or his parents make the choice for him because
and he also begs.
Society.
Yeah, he also begs Martha not to go and tells her, you're making the wrong decision. You should not go. You don't have to do this. The war doesn't need you, blah, blah, blah. And Martha's going to be a dancer. And I think she can't because she's injured in the war. It's just like every single war tragedy you can imagine is like heaped on top of Martha in this. And somehow, again, you do still get that dance at the end that is like, still somehow love, perseveres. Some of it makes it through. These two people are now kind of encouraging and raising the next generation in hopes that they can stop the war. And they're putting them, they're not choosing to go to war. They're choosing to help people who are going to stop the war, which is like, yeah, it's just a beautiful arc. Like Spy Family impresses me every year with the fact that like it's cute and then it's actually legitimately one of the like such a well written series.
I also just respect series that paint people as gray instead of good or bad.
Oh yeah.
Like I appreciated that this was also tragic, but when Martha comes back from the war after all that strife and like legwork, she makes it back and she tries to like reconnect, but the headmaster's married.
Yeah.
And his wife is not painted to be jealous of Martha in any way, or
nope.
She's painted to be just a very kind and caring person. Like
still a good person.
Yeah, his wife is not painted to be a villain in any way. His new wife is just like a nice person. So it's like the world moves on without you kind of a situation, which but I'm glad it ended with that last dance because that put the sweet in bittersweet.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and also Spy Family for sure, even though it has had these sort of like these war trauma type influences and stories and backstories and influences in it, I do think that it comes down at the end of the day to being a very sweet and positive story. So something tells me in the future, I think the headmaster's wife, I think she died a couple of years ago, right? Or maybe they divorced or something. I don't remember. And Martha is single.
Yeah.
Those two, I think, are maybe there's more there. Maybe their story's over. But I do think that where they're positioned, they potentially have even more to do in the story. So yeah, this is, I mean, anti-war stories will bring out some of the best art. I mean, Attack on Titan, right? I think is one of the best anti-war stories ever written. Because it shows how how simply choosing to continue war essentially makes you the bad guy. I mean, it's tragic, and I really did like Martha's War a lot. I thought this story arc was really good.
I expect a positive ending for them. I think it's like stated in the first chapter with Twilight's mission to like create a world where no kid cries over war. I think that's like a fundamental theme in that I think these guys get good endings. Yeah,
for sure. On the other side of that, on the other side of the bracket here, we have the Egghead arc, which ended. These story arcs had to have ended this year. Would be the main thing there. I think this is the second best arc of all time in One Piece, and I think that's why it's here. I think the only thing better than this is Ina's Lobby. And you can maybe say Water 7 / Ina's Lobby, or maybe Alabasta. Maybe it's third, maybe it's second, maybe it's first. I don't know.
It's hard. It's hard to rank them. I know.
It's hard. And here's what's so great about Egghead. And we mentioned like the Kuma flashback really is a turning point for where it goes from like, yes, we are introducing this arc, and then Kuma Bonney flashback happens, and then everything that happens after that, like, listen, One Piece up until Egghead had been essentially 20, what would have been 20, I'll say One Piece started in 97. Is that right?
I think that's somewhere around there. Yeah, I think so.
So 23, 27 years of questions and hints and very, very, very few answers. If you did get an answer, it was minor. It was one every 200 chapters. Egghead is the beginning of the end. We got so many answers. We got so many revelations, which I don't think I want to spoil this. That's one that's, there's a lot there that we don't need to spoil. It started answering questions in a series that had been 25 or more years of questions. And that is just so satisfying. And the way that it was presented and the way that it was laid out, the battle, Vegapunk's announcement to the world, I think is a cool way to frame it. The fight between the Titans, the elders showing up in person, that's not anything that anyone could have called or said. I don't know. This was the first thing that came to my mind when I said, what do I think the best story arc this year was? And it's like, it's Egghead. Like, I don't know. It's so essentially One Piece and also answered questions, which is kind of un-One Piece because like I said, One Piece just set up a bunch of questions. Wano, we got kind of one big reveal, and then Egghead gave us, 6 big reveals. And now, there are less questions at the end of Egghead than there were going into it, I think, for the first time in One Piece history. And I think that's substantial. I also think the way that it was done was magical, as it always is in One Piece. So
I agree. I think this is the perfect like One Piece formula in action, because it was like pretty concise too.
Well,
have you seen
like
the Feral
chapters? But
it really,
it's like the second longest arc, I think, or third.
Seriously, it was like nonstop for me. Like I was entertained every chapter, so maybe it just felt short because things were always happening. But hey, do you know the Feral DPS flowchart where it like
John
it tells,
fucking Madden, that thing?
Yeah, it's like it just there's like a spinny wheel of John fucking Madden.
I love that.
The John fucking Madden chaos of this arc was the moment the elders showed up. It's just it devolves.
It's wild, yeah.
I won't even say devolves. It evolves into chaos. It is.
But like such a and this is where Oda really is like a master, is that like kind of all of his arcs at a certain point have so many different fights or battles or things going on that they're all chaotic. And this one was also that, but also felt like really purposefully controlled chaos in that, yeah, it's chaotic. Yeah, there's all these little fights going on, but this sort of, and I really think that Vegapunk's message to the world really has a through line. Cause I mean, it's like, it's like 7 or 8 chapters long. Like we were like maybe even more, like maybe it's like 10 chapters of Vegapunk giving his message and like that pulling us through like part of that chaos for a large section of it, the setup of that, Kizaru and all of this stuff. And yeah, like, I don't know. It's just like, it is so essentially One Piece. And like for reference, when Wano ended, Wano would never have been on my list for best story arc. I like Wano a lot, but I had a lot more issues with Wano. Egghead, I think, is just phenomenal and fantastic. So
yeah, Egghead is so good. I think this is like the best thing I've read this year, and I think during Wano I could put other things in contention, even during like Whole Cake and Fishman. But when One Piece hits, it just hits, man.
Yeah, and I think those other arcs are a lot of, well, you know, it was really good at this part, or the end was really good, but the start, blah, blah, blah. And Egghead was like, it has an introduction, which maybe is not as good as the end, but like it sets things up that then land in the second part. And again, it's hard to fight against a series that for, 1,100 chapters has been, setting things up and making pitches, and then a single arc knocking 5 of them out of the park with home runs. Like that's too satisfying to pass up, in my opinion.
Yeah, so. it just hit, like you said, 5 home runs. That's Egghead.
Cool. How are you feeling on this, Captain?
This is a tough one because I'm
hard
giving
to
it to Egghead, but
okay.
it's like hard to not, I don't know, fundamentally as a human love Martha's War as a story.
Yeah, well, and it's hard because it feels like we're picking like, it's like, well, which is more important, the Looney Tunes or like Saving Private Ryan? And it's like, well, like
I think that's like the fundamental nature of these award things is you're comparing apples and oranges. And it does feel like weird saying the Looney Tunes was better than Saving Private Ryan, but
at the same time, the Looney Tunes were pretty good. I think we'll definitely go with One Piece Egghead here. That being said, if you're listening to this and you are not reading Spy Family because you think it's some fluffy thing for, family people or whatever, people who don't think as seriously or whatever, you need to go back and read Spy Family. Because the bus hijacking arc, there's a lot more anti-war, like realistic kind of Cold War type stuff in these stories that is, I think, exceptionally well executed. Before you said, I'm very 50-50 on this one, so I think Egghead is a good choice. I think Martha's War is like I said, one of the best anti-war stories we got this year and definitely the last couple of years. So
I think it's good that we have hard choices like this, because
for sure.
This would be less fun if we didn't have to brutally pick one choice over another.
Yeah. Speaking of brutal choices, best shonen. So this is separate from best series. So this is kind of like maybe our second place nominees or something. For Best Shonen, I have nominated Dan to Dan by Tatsu Yukinobu, and Gautam has nominated Akane Banashi by Yuki Suinaga and Takamasa Moe.
This time I chose violence.
Yes, you did. And spoilers for upcoming, but Akane is what I nominated for my best manga of the year. You will see that coming up. So this is extremely difficult. I will say, Dan is the best shonen. Like Akane is better because it kind of surpasses or expands out from, it is not just a shonen, it is more than that. Whereas Dan is like, this is an action battle shonen and it's the best version of it there could ever be.
This is not what you said when best writing came up, when you called Akane the best shonen.
That's true. No, you're right. But yeah, it's difficult because Dan is, even though all of these things that I say about this is about, Urasawa being, this greatest modern author and Akane Banashi being the best written thing that Weekly Shonen Jump has ever published, the thing that I continually return to as what am I most interested and excited to read every single week is Monday morning, 10 a.m., Dan. Like, nothing else gets me hyped as much as a new chapter of Dan does, because it is so much fun. It is so interesting. It is so weird and quirky. The characters are so fun. The art is always amazing. The character arcs are great. The romance is excellent. It just has everything going for it. And it's just like, it doesn't do anything bad. And like I said, it's just, there's basically nothing else, that gets me excited to read it. Like the excitement I feel waking up Sunday morning when all of the stuff is published to read versus waking up Monday morning and knowing that I have Dan to read. I'm more excited to read Dan than I am to read the entirety of Weekly Shonen Jump. That's how much I like and love Dan.
So I guess my question here then is, this category, what do you like most in Weekly Shonen Jump, or what is the best action adventure series that fits the scope of the term shonen?
Yeah.
Because I picked what I thought was best in Shonen Jump, or kind of the shonen category.
I agree with by default, as I nominated for the best series of the year.
So I guess that's how I framed it when I chose Akane, because I think Dan is more fun than Akane. But with that said, when Akane is on stage, or maybe Master Shigema's on stage, and they describe the audience being enraptured, I am also enraptured. They are conveying acting without words via just drawn lines, and I believe it. I feel like they are acting.
Yes.
I don't know how that's possible. That's something that shouldn't work in my mind, but it does every single time.
Yeah.
Akane has given me chills. Certain Akane chapters have been so good that I've gotten chills reading it. That doesn't happen anymore, except for Akane. That's so cool. I can't. But
like I said,
let's preface though that we have Akane in another category. It can still win all those other categories regardless of what we choose for this one.
And I have to. We're in multi-category negotiations now, because it's it's very much this well, if you give me Dan for this one, then does Akane get more votes later? Which is actually also my picks that I went twice, because I don't know.
We're just gonna, these last categories, there's no more negotiations. They've broken down. We are at war. We didn't learn from Martha's War. We're at war now.
We will be left similarly scarred and beaten and bruised. I can't. I said my piece on Dan, and I think that we pretty consistently, when we cover it gush and love it. And I think now that the anime luckily has come and landed for everyone, I think people know. And if you're an anime watcher only and you don't read Dan, you happen to be watching a very specific manga podcast, know that Dan just gets better. It's awesome as more characters join.
It's so goddamn good.
I'm going to give you Akane here because I do think Akane is just one of the best things of all here. So
it's just like it's one of these impossible choices, but I'd also give it to Akane. It is phenomenal.
It just real. I mean, like I said earlier, it just really is like something else. Like it just is something else in the genre.
I think Dandadan is something that uses its medium immaculately. It does everything well, but Akane, I feel at times transcends its medium.
Transcends. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Yeah, is that Dandadan is a fantasy, action battle shonen with demons and devils and aliens, and it does that better than any other series has ever done that. And Akane transcends like what those kinds of series can be. I think I agree with that.
For real.
Cool.
It's just so good.
Cool. Akane, I think, wins that one. This is, I think, one of my favorite ones because it's a very specific one. This is the best single chapter or moment in a series. The two kind of chapter and moments that we have chosen here, I have chosen to bring Ranger Reject / Go-Go Loser Ranger, chapter 124. This is where we get a title drop of the title Ranger Reject and also the last chapter of the three-way battle. There's going to be some minor spoilers here, so if you don't want to hear too many spoilers for these, you skip ahead to the next award. This is basically, this chapter also contains D being trapped in the room. This is sort of the last chapter before the time skip happens. So this is the very end of that whole arc. It's also you name drop the series title that has not been name dropped yet. I think that's sick. Like, I don't know. Nothing gives me chills quite as much as like a name drop, which, Dan and a few others did that this year, which that might've been my other nominee in this one.
Yeah.
And then Gautam nominated here, Sakamoto Days chapter 163, which is Takamura Bathroom Slaughter. I have titled it.
I think I edited this Ranger Reject page to replace Ranger Reject with Go-Go Loser Ranger. I'll never let anyone say those words again. I should post that online and rake in the money.
Yeah, what are we? Some kind of Go-Go Loser Ranger? I think maybe I don't. Didn't I feel like I tweeted that out after you sent it to me. I think I did. I asked you. I think I asked you when I tweeted it out. But yeah,
it's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of jumped ahead and said a little bit about mine, but tell me about the Sakamoto Days chapter, which is
Sure. Yeah. Just to set the scene, up to this point, they were all fighting in this museum, and shit is going to shit. It's getting chaotic, and Sakamoto is fighting his nemesis, whose name I won't say because it's a slur, and they're at like kind of the climax of their fight, and then we cut away to a bathroom stall where two goons just enter, but one of the stalls is closed. And there's just a hole, like a glory hole. And the dude peeks in, and his nose gets grabbed, and his face gets pulled through and brutalized by this old man.
Yeah, you can see the cut through like the entirety of all of like 5 stalls or whatever it is.
Yeah. And if you read Sakamoto, this old man is like a senile old man who everyone underestimates because he's just like 80. But he is like pretty much the strongest character in the series. Yeah. Actually, he just is.
He just is, as far as we know. Yeah. And I don't think it's this chapter. I think it's one of the later ones. But somebody shoots a bullet at him, and you think, oh yeah, the katana guy, a bullet. He's going to cut the bullet in half. No, he runs the edge of his blade along the bullet and uses it to sharpen his katana. Like that's how cool and awesome
sick.
This is. Yeah, and this is just like, as a singular standout chapter, this chapter is just like, this is what Sakamoto Days is about. This like cool action. This is like cool action you've never seen before. Of like, I've never seen a katana fight in a bathroom and cut guys up and like, it's just cool.
The best part is like, we were mentioning gachi art styles, right? And how it changes. Sakamoto Days, it very much was bombastic. It looked like a over the top action fight. And then you go to this guy's chapter, and the bathroom scene is a horror movie.
Yeah, it absolutely is a slasher movie chapter. Like it's very different. It's very cool.
And afterwards he engages in combat with the Sakamoto team and absolutely whomps them. But for a bit there. But no spoilers. Go read it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's very good.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what else to say about this Ranger Reject chapter other than like it. To me, this is it's the culmination. It's the final chapter of what I think is the best arc the series has had. The most interesting thing, the end of this big battle, it sets up the rest of the series. And yeah, I mean, the Rangers really kind of star in this last chapter. I don't know. It's tough because this is more of a moment. Like for me, the Red Ranger saying like Ranger Reject, I'll never let anyone say those words again. And what it leads to and what that means in the moment compared to like a very like this Sakamoto Days chapter, which is like you said, is like a horror slasher chapter with great action. It's difficult. Yeah. I mean,
here's my thoughts on it, Bruce, because I think the Ranger Reject, if you count it as like 5 chapters, right? Like the last 5 chapters, I'd say that would be my vote.
Yeah. I mean, definitely it's the end of the 3-way battle is kind of a singular thing, but yeah, But
if we're thinking of best chapter or moment, I would say this is the best chapter. The Sakamoto Days chapter is better.
I think
but it really depends on how we frame best moment, because if we're talking about this part as well as D's part before it and his fight, then completely Ranger Reject. But
I'm content because I think that I remember when that Sakamoto Days chapter came out. I think we even did a whole episode on it. Like I'm pretty sure we did, or like we talked about it on the podcast. It's just so hard to argue against a singular chapter of an action series that kind of changes genre and still keeps its action roots and just goes all out and does cool, wild, crazy murder stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I'm happy to go Sakamoto Days here. I think Ranger, I think next year Ranger is going to be on a lot of our lists because I think it's going to end next year. Talk about that.
You know what? It's actually better this way because I remember last year's we picked this same arc in Ranger Reject. I think is our best.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
With the tricking the super mega death invader.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's give it to Sakamoto. That makes sense.
Yeah, let's give it to Sakamoto. Actually, I'm curious now.
I actually wanted to pick D for best character, but we already did it. So
that's true. We did pick D. I don't remember. I thought we did. Oh, Manga Awards. There they are. I wanted to see like what did we put last year? Best character. Yeah, D Ranger Reject was there. Completed story arc. No, we did not. Completed story arc last year was the Vamola backstory versus Sakamoto Days Young Assassins flashback.
We picked Vamola, right?
I believe the orange highlights are what is one. So yes, I believe we did pick Vamola for that one.
That's a good choice.
D was nominated in that one. But yeah, cool. Let's go Sakamoto Days here. Two more things to choose from here. Best character.
You picked
Akane.
great man.
Look, I represent Denji the way he has been this year. The best characters we have Akane from Akane Banashi, who is having so much fun on the left, versus Denji from Chainsaw Man, who is complaining about someone wanting to cut his dick off on the right. I'll start with Akane because I won't say too much more. We have gushed and will continue to gush about how good Akane is, and a large portion of that is what a strong and excellent, well-developed main character Akane actually is in the series. She's excellent. I think she's the best lead Weekly Shonen Jump has in the best series Weekly Shonen Jump has in the best series Weekly Shonen Jump has had in a maybe 25 years. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Akane is a huge part of why Akane Banashi, the series, is so good. So yeah, she this year especially, the things she's gone through, things she's seen with Shiguma, realizing her kind of secret power talent of being able to weave stories together, I think is another one of my favorite moments of the year. Maybe I should have nominated that. That would have been great. I almost actually put 2 Akane things on the best moment. I almost put her realizing she could weave stories together, and I almost put Shiguma telling the death story, which I thought was also a similar great moment. But yeah.
That was such a good moment. Yeah.
Talk to me about Denji from Chainsaw Man and why he's your character of the year pick.
Okay. And I'll also make a counter argument against Akane.
All right.
So Denji has gone through it. My boy did not make it through Chainsaw Man 1 unscathed. He lost everything. And he's not handling it well, actually, to everyone's surprise. Yes. He's not handling it well at all. Essentially, he is in this limbo state where he has no one that he actually loves. He has no goals, is directionless, and he kind of just is a superpowered being that exists. And after the final thing that was taken away from him, Nayuta, he's empty. He's broken. And he is thinking with his dick, as he did initially when he had nothing in the first place, like at Chainsaw Man Part 1. He's back to that spot where his coping mechanism is horniness. So yeah, I think that is pretty much where we are at with Denji as a character. Him trying to even figure out how to unfuck himself. And
or get fucked and hope that unfucks himself.
Yeah, exactly. What a paradoxical sentence. I love it. But I think the cool part about it is how Asa fits into the mix, because she has a ton of her own problems, but she is, I don't know.
She's not our nominee, but
yeah, but I also don't think Asa could have been the nominee this year. If this was last year, then I would have put Asa up.
Yeah,
but
I do think Denji. Yeah, Denji is such a complicated character. I think of all the praise that I have heaped on Akane, if this was most complicated character, Denji wins that, hands down. I love Denji because rooting for someone who is so flawed, and the stuff that we saw this year, especially from Denji in Chainsaw Man, the things where he is backsliding, he does still have issues, he is still clearly immensely flawed, while he still takes some steps forward and has improved in other ways. It's again, it's just this multifaceted, complex character. I think Denji probably could have won or been nominated for best character almost any year that Chainsaw Man was published. I think he's that good of a character.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think what I like is that you're right. He's very complex, but and he makes a lot of just terrible decisions, and chaotic decisions, but you always kind of see where they're coming from, and you can always sympathize.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a talented writing,
Yeah, for sure. It's I mean, Fujimoto and Denji's great.
Here's my counter Akane argument. If this was last year, Akane had a ton of growth last year. This year, we had a lot of side character focus, so she had less.
That's true.
But she still had a ton.
I'll give you that. I mean, she still did develop her secret power this year, I believe.
So. A lot. Yeah, I know. That's my counter argument is weak, because
it's a weak counter argument. Are you leaning any certain way?
Yes.
Okay. Is it Denji by a lot?
It's Akane by a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty torn. I'm maybe even like 51-49 Denji, because I love Denji, and I think I relate to him in kind of some personal ways.
We all do, right?
Yeah.
Let's give it to Denji.
Yeah,
I think this
dude needs a pick me up, man. He hasn't gotten a lot this year. He needs something. Man. He hasn't won a whole lot this year. Let's give it Denji. Hey, congrats, Denji. You're not a total fuck up. You won our award.
I like how we both wanted to vote against our nominations.
It happens. Well, and the reality of most of these is that we're bringing two series that we both really like most of the time. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, Denji. I hope that we can nominate Denji again next year, because I hope that he continues to develop and grow and change and be a fuck up and still kind of improving. But yeah, let's say purely on the reason that Denji didn't have a whole lot go right for him in Chainsaw Man this year, but we can give him an award, and then he'll have something go right for him.
Yeah, and Denji, you better use this award and really grow as a character next year, because otherwise we'll take it back and retroactively give it to Akane.
Yes, or maybe we'll take it back and give it to Asa. That would really piss him off next year.
Yeah, exactly. Let's give it to Asa.
Cool. All right. Almost 2 hours of podcasting brings us to the final award, the best manga of 2024. You may have expected it. There was some foreshadowing earlier in this episode that said what these two things might have been. My nominee for the best manga of 2024 is Akane Banashi by Yuki Tsunaga and Takamasa Moe, and Gautam's nominee is One Piece by Eiichiro Oda.
So I think we covered why we love both, right?
Yeah.
So I think here, let's talk about why we think one should win over another.
Gotcha.
So why don't you start her up?
Okay. This is hard. Of all the things we've said have been difficult decisions, this is potentially the most difficult, as it should be, for picking what we think the best manga of 2024 is. I will say, earlier in the year, we did a bracket showdown. Akane was able to win that bracket. I think that it has value. I think the fact that, look, Akane was nominated by one or both of us for best writing, best shonen, best character. That's like, if a movie is nominated for like best lead actor, best writing, and best director, and that is not the best thing that year, like what? Like if it, like what is he? What are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, also
counterpoint to that exact point. One Piece was nominated for best flashback and best completed story and won both categories. If it doesn't win overall, then what are we doing? True.
I also will say Akane has only won one of her 3 nominations. No, she won 2 out of 3. So they both won 2 previous awards in this list.
And one of the judges wanted to make it 3 out of 3. So to your point, yeah.
Well, the other judges wanted to make it 0 of 3, depending on the vote. Man, this is hard. I don't know are you insane. Having as much trouble as I am with this?
No, I have a choice.
You have a choice.
And you already know what it is.
Yeah, I do. It's Akane Banashi. Congrats.
Imagine, right? No, it's definitely One Piece for me. I'll tell you why. I think when One Piece hits, it hits so hard because it has 20 years of world building behind it.
Yeah.
You can say that's unfair, but it is what it is. That it makes the story better, and you can't ask for more than that. So despite Akane being newer and not maybe having the world building to hit the heights One Piece did with Egghead, it is what it is. One Piece hit those heights. It is a culmination of a much larger story. And sure, you can say that for every One Piece arc, but this one in particular, I wanted to bring, as opposed to like Wano or whatever other arc, I wanted to bring Egghead because Egghead was phenomenal.
I nominated it as the best arc, so...
I thought it was a short arc until Bruce told me it was like the second longest or something.
No, it's not. I think it's like 5th or 6th, but it's like 108. I think it's like longer than Alabasta by like 2 chapters or something. So,
you know, time flies when you're having fun, and I was hooked. Like to the point where I didn't even realize how long it was until just now. There
was a stint in the middle of the year there where like every single week a One Piece chapter would come out and Gaspar and I would DM each other for like an hour talking about what the fuck happened in that One Piece chapter.
Dude, I couldn't access Manga Plus when I was in Japan. So Bruce like uploaded the chapter for me. Don't tell anyone. But for me to read. And like that's how week to week we were on One Piece. We were like, it was so good.
Yeah, this really does show why. The last 2 years that we have done this, we have excluded One Piece from being nominated for this because it's too powerful.
Yeah, and I put One Piece on the list, and Bruce is like, "Are we doing One Piece this year?" And I'm like, "I know we're not supposed to, but this is the year.
We do kind of have to." Yeah, and to be honest, we should. Maybe if something has won best manga in a past year, we can exclude it from the next year. Although last year, Delicious in Dungeon, I think, won best. But
oh yeah, that's right, and it deserved it.
And it did. It was amazing.
But that's why I excluded D from best characters because he won last year. So.
Yeah, well, I've been trying to double up, but you know, especially for ongoing stuff. I was trying to look and see if I could find our 2022 awards, and I couldn't. But maybe it's because I don't remember. Because I don't remember what we nominated in 2022. Oh well. Yeah.
Also, one more point in One Piece's favor. Look at Jinbei right now. That's your dad, dude. Are you gonna vote against him?
I do love Jinbei. He is one of my favorite Straw Hats.
He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah,
that is your father.
As much as we have both gushed about Akane. And I think everyone listening hopefully knows how in love we are with it. This was this was the best year of One Piece, maybe that it's ever had. Definitely since I've been reading it. I've only been reading it week to week for Jesus, 5 years at this point, which is it's just still a lot. Yeah, it's hard. Again, it's too powerful. It's too powerful, Gautam.
It hit unbelievable highs this year.
So, it really did. Yeah. And like I said, the fact that, and you also mentioned it, right? The fact that it's 20 plus years of this history and world building and character development, and a lot of it is finally coming to fruition and being paid off here. And again, I nominated Egghead, which has been the majority of this year's, like all except for the past, 2 months, maybe 6 chapters. It's too powerful. It
just makes sense.
It's unfair, but it's also not unfair because One Piece really is just that good.
I'd say it's unfair in that Akane hasn't had the time to have that world building, but also it's fair in that Oda has been consistent for fucking 25 years or whatever. So.
Well, and he's been very consistent, and I think that actually this is an inconsistent year for Oda because I think he's improved and been even better this year than normal, right?
I agree.
So I think the winner is One Piece. It's Eiichiro Oda. It's too good. It's too good.
You know,
it's too powerful.
Kind of funny.
Can't be nominated next year.
At the end of your favorite One Piece arc, Whitebeard confirmed the One Piece is real.
Yes.
And at the end of the Egghead arc, Vegapunk confirmed that global warming is real. And those are the two goated arcs.
That's true. Confirming reality as well. Yeah. Cool. We've been going for a while, but I think that's it. I think that's it for the year of podcasting for us. I think there might be one more episode before the end of the year. That episode should be the start of our quote unquote season 3. It's crazy that we've been doing this for as long as we've been doing this, as consistently as we've been doing this.
Thanks for watching so far.
Yeah, definitely a very heartfelt and sincere thank you to everyone, all of our new subscribers. We've almost 5x'd our subscriber count. I know if you watch this far, you're looking going, wow, that's, but yeah, I mean, we had, I think 40 subscribers at the start of 2024. And now we're closing in on maybe enough to get paid a couple dollars for every episode we publish. That would be pretty cool. But also this year, I mean, one of the things that we mentioned a couple times, but the Gachiakuta read through, I think has been great. The response to that has been really positive, and I really, really enjoyed catching up on that series. I think next year we are going to do more of those and maybe less week to week episodes. And so you should be seeing more deep dives and discussions of series, catch ups and things like that, because I think that that's something that we both enjoy often more than just talking about what happened the week in manga. So
I definitely enjoy the Gachiakuta book clubs more on average, mainly because Gachiakuta is great.
It's also really good. Yeah.
It's fun theory crafting with you. And I don't have to read as much slop,
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the weekly one, we end up reading a lot of good stuff, but a lot
of the chapter ones are just sort of not worth our time, but it is worth our time as a content creator channel to go over those in case they do pop off and capture a lot of hearts. For instance, our Centuria episode is one of our biggest ones of the year because Centuria popped off and was really popular, and I had a good thumbnail for it and stuff, but a lot of the other stuff. We'll get into too many details. Just, I think
it's just what is a good discussion with you? And sometimes when neither of us like a chapter, I'm just
there's not much value there. So
right? Yeah.
I think you will see, I think if you are a consistent watcher, 2025 will look a little bit different. And I think hopefully better and help grow the channel and help us enjoy the content we make and make more enjoyable content for all of you. So just
random thought. Yeah. I normally don't read Reddit or Twitter anymore or YouTube comments, but I went through our YouTube comments and I just want to say you guys are quite thoughtful. I see just paragraphs of comments that are very well thought out and articulated, and I'm dang, this is the most thoughtful YouTube comment section I've ever went through before.
Yeah, it really is. And we don't get a whole lot of comments, but I am really impressed that like almost every single comment I will comment back on and have a, like a decent discussion or a single back and forth with people. And I'm really, really glad that we have been able to foster, even a very small community of people who come back and watch and discuss those things with us. So I'm really appreciative of that. Again, hopefully grow it in 2025. Maybe I've always promised that if we got to a certain size, I would open up a Discord server to just sort of be a new home for these deep discussions on manga, because that's something that has been missing since Reddit took a turn for the worse, and Twitter is always bad for those things, and there's not really a forum for it.
I don't want to be responsible for how other people communicate with each other.
No, I don't either, which is why I think I said 20,000 subscribers. Maybe I'd do that, but which is another 100 times what we have right now, but we'll see. But yeah, so that's
Oh shit, dude. Sorry to cut you off. I realized we forgot predictions this year.
We'll do that in another. I think that'll be our last episode of the year. We'll do predictions. Because we'll go over our last year's predictions and who won, all of that stuff, and who's going to buy the other one dinner or whatever, and then we'll do our next year's predictions. That'll be a short one we can do. We do that next weekend or something. We'll be good on that. So yeah, so look forward to that. I think that'll be our last episode of the year. And then. Yeah, I think that's it, Gato. Is there anything else you wanted to say back here? This is kind of our season finale, I guess, of 2024.
Nah, it was a good season, though.
Cool. Hey, thank you, everyone, again. Another great year of podcasting. Thanks for all the amazing manga discussions, like we said. Love the new subscribers. Love the comments. Let's keep that momentum. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot keep saying thank you enough for the few dedicated people who watch these episodes and click on them. I really do appreciate it. It gives me affirmation that what we're doing is fun for more than just us two, even though we will keep doing it even if nobody watched, as we did through most of 2023.
Hell yeah.
But cool. Stay tuned. More weekly discussions, more deep dives, even more. A final thank you to all of our watchers and listeners. Gautam, tell them goodbye.
Goodbye.
And don't forget, of course, to read more manga.